John Hume's Platinum Rhino project produced 2,000 southern white rhinos on a ranch in South Africa, more than 10% of the world's population. To do that requires security systems that run into the many millions of dollars. This is the security hub at another smaller rhino ranch. Without this, the owner there says he will lose rhinos to poachers.
Fortunately, we can employ much different strategies than the national parks can, and because we can intensify our efforts, we had no incidences of poaching for the last 7 years.
US wildlife charity African Parks, which has Prince Harry as its president, has now acquired John Hume's rhinos and plans to release them in parks it manages across Africa. Stephen Palos from South Africa's Sustainable Use Coalition says this could be a recipe for disaster.
My opinion on this is that what they're doing is they're repeating what I consider to be an already proven failed experiment. And it is experimental. That herd of Johns, over 2,000 animals now, was probably the most secure nucleus of rhinoceros, certainly the southern white rhinoceros and the black rhinoceros that exists. He's proven by the numbers of increment of his herd that it works. He put himself in a very safe place in South Africa. He spent a lot of money to relocate from his farm near the borders of South Africa in a really bushy and mountainous terrain, and brought that entire operation up to the central heartland of South Africa, to very flat terrain, far away from border risks and things like that. And he's just been increasing those rhino numbers, and I believe his own horn stockpile, for the decade or so he's been in the new location. Converse to that, if you look at the Kenyan model, on their watch, coincidentally also 1977, they put a total ban in any type of utilization in the form of hunting and of any wildlife. And they hung their hat completely on non-consumptive ecotourism, phototourism. And they've managed to bring the northern white rhino to the point that it is now functionally extinct. They've managed to see the rest of their wildlife and game populations also crash in that period of time. I have a lot of respect for African Parks. It's an organization that I think is well led and well premised on much of what they do, and obviously tremendously well supported by famously wealthy individuals. But the rhinoceros is a different thing. You start taking that herd of Johns and spreading it around various parts of Africa. He was spending, I understand, 1 million South African rand a month on security, which, divide that by roughly 22 to get it into pounds, it's a lot of money. If you start spreading that all over the place, and you have to start now securing them in pockets all over, the unit cost of the protection of those rhinos is going to go through the roof. But that's not the scary part. The only way you can do that in the current regime in most of Africa is by fortress conservation methods, which means you put fences between the animals and the population, and you arm and train people to become defenders, and you pay huge amounts of money to them for doing that. It's going to cost human life. That is an absolute fact. In countries like that, you can only defend those rhinos with a militia, and you will be up against a militia. So rhinos are going to die because some will slip through the cracks. People are going to die because it is going to be a war. Money is going to be wasted. I don't see the logic of that. It's the old saying about doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome.
African Parks' website has lots of details about its planned release project. We asked African Parks for more on how it plans to stop the poachers. How much extra budget will it put into anti-poaching? And we asked African Parks to address the fear that the temptation of rhino horn could lead to human death, either of poachers or rangers or both. They did not send us a comment.